The new law requiring voters to show government-issued photo IDs at the polls. The lawsuit filed Tuesday charges that the measure violates the U.S. Constitution. Attorney Frank Gimbel joins us to talk about this developing situation and very important as we look ahead to the 2012 presidential election.
Well, that's right. Kim, as you know, this law that was kind of rushed through the legislature after Governor Walker became elected requires that every person, in advance of being allowed to take a ballot, either in person or absentee, has to have a very specified kind of photo identification. And there is, within this 54-page complaint that's filed by the ACLU seeking injunctive relief. Injunctive relief meaning that the state should be foreclosed from imposing the obligation of a person to show up with a photo ID before he or she can have a ballot. It shows in the 17 plaintiffs that they've elected to include in this case that these folks, by reason of some disability in the photo ID that they have on their person, would have to go into their pocketbook, spend anywhere from $50 to $250 to get into an appropriate place to obtain a state-issued photo ID, and these folks, for a variety of reasons, don't have the money.
And this is different from a class action, which represents a kind of like an anonymous group. The plaintiffs in this are very specific. There's a senior citizen, there are some minorities, there are homeless veterans that are represented with very specific stories of why it would be difficult under this law for them to vote.
That's correct, Kim. You've got that right. In a class action, a group of people say, we stand in the shoes of other people who have similar kinds of circumstances that give rise to this cause of action against the defendant. In this case, as you've clearly identified, 17 folks have been found by the ACLU to stand in and say, I personally, because of my circumstances, would have to go into some kind of pocketbook that I don't have in order to put me in a position to qualify to obtain the appropriate kind of photo identification. Now, I think from a political point of view, it is the sense and it is the expression of the ACLU that this kind of registration law kind of echoes laws that existed in the South prior to the emancipation of the slaves.
Which were called Jim Crow laws.
That's right, Jim Crow and poll tax laws. Yeah. And the essence of it is to say that who will be adversely affected and whose voting rights will be taken away by reason of this law are the disenfranchised folks, the poor, and minorities.
The governor's office, though, saying 15 other states have enacted similar laws. They've been challenged, and they've withstood the challenges.
But every one of those challenges, Kim, you'll find there's kind of like an escape mechanism within the law for the person to kind of sidestep the particularized kind of photo identification that's required in Wisconsin. And if you had that escape clause, if you went in there and you could appeal the denial of your right to have a ballot, you could vote provisionally, and then you could go and have a hearing, and by and large, those states would then validate the ballots of those people who may have, at the threshold, had some problem in qualifying for the ballot.
But as it stands right now, you don't have an ID, you don't get a ballot.
Wisconsin says to the person who is monitoring the elections, this person doesn't have the appropriate kind of photo identification, he or she doesn't get a ballot. And the day after the election, you know, there's no access to the ballots. So the question really is, between now and those elections that are going to occur after February 1st of 2012, will the courts, and this is filed in federal court in the Eastern District of Wisconsin, that's Milwaukee, which covers 28 states, 28 counties within the southeast corner of the state, will the judge stand up and say, yes, until we're satisfied that there is this kind of exculpatory clause, meaning a clause to have someone escape from the very strict requirements of this law can't be enforced and people have to be given ballots.
Lots to talk about. All right, Frank Gimbel, thank you for being here.
Happy to be
746,
here.
Let's go to Nicole.
Thank you.